Good day everyone, today we will be discussing about poetry, specifically its characteristics, forms, and elements. Before discussing other details about poetry, let's first focus on the definitions of poetry. Poetry is seen as an art form in which human language is used for its aesthetic qualities. Also, it consists largely of oral or literary works in which language is used in a manner that is felt by its user and audience to differ from ordinary prose. Also, another description of poetry is that it is often described as literature in metrical form, or compositions forming rhythmic lines. Furthermore, it has a set of specific features that differentiate it from other forms of literature very clearly. And lastly, poetry is often created from the need to escape the logical, as well as expressing feelings and other emotions. Now at this point, we are going to talk about the characteristics of poetry. Poetry has different characteristics, some of which are that it is imaginative, unique, uses imagery, thought-provoking, triggers emotional response, and often has rhyme and rhythm. Let's further discuss the characteristics of poetry. First, poetry is imaginative. Poetry is imaginative in nature as it entails the writer or poet to use his imagination to come up with a scene that he aims to portray using his words. We have to remember that a writer's imagination is part of the driving force that inspires him to come up with meaningful literature. We say that it's only a part of the driving force because one part of the inspiration for a writer to come up with literary pieces would be his or her experiences and ideas. Next, poetry is also unique. Remember that since part of the factors that influence a writer to come up with poetry or any kind of literary piece in general is his or her experience and ideas, it can be said that each particular poem is unique. We have to bear in mind that each individual's experiences are unique and that no two experiences are alike. Therefore, the literary works that we are creating are all unique because it would reflect our own personal ideas, personal experiences, and personal opinions regarding a particular topic, regarding a particular issue, or regarding a particular theme that we are writing about. The next characteristic is that poetry uses imagery. Poetry aims to let the readers be able to be a part of the scene that is portrayed by the writer. In order to do so, the writer needs to make use of imagery. We have to remember that the use of imagery allows the poet to paint pictures and include elements that appeal to the senses of the readers. Another characteristic is that poetry is thought-provoking. Poetry tends to reflect the personal insights and ideas of the writer. As such, its contents are open to the interpretation of the reader. We have to take note that the contents of poems influence the readers to analyze the literature in accordance with the writer's intentions. Next, poetry triggers emotional response. Since poetry reflects the ideas, insights, emotions, and intentions of the writer, if written well, it tends to elicit sympathy or empathy from the readers. It is worth noting that one of the aims of poetry is to let the readers be able to relate to the theme presented by the writer in the poem. Remember that each particular poem is based on a specific theme, and a poem is considered to be effective if the reader is able to feel or empathize with whatever emotions the writer is including in his or her poetry. And lastly, poetry often has a rhyme and rhythm. Much like in music, poetry also follows the principle of having a rhyming pattern and meter to add beauty to the piece. However, it is worth noting that not all forms of poetry follow this premise. Hence, I indicated the term often, as not all forms of poetry would follow a rhyming scheme or a meter. Now, the existence of free verse poems proves that poetry does not necessarily need a rhyming scheme or meter, just like what I have mentioned earlier. Now, at this point, we are going to talk about the forms of poetry. Poetry generally has three forms. First, we have the lyric poetry. Next is the narrative poetry and the descriptive poetry. Let's focus on the first one, which is lyric poetry. Lyric poetry is a form of poetry wherein a speaker in the poem expresses strong feelings or emotions and thoughts. It is also worth noting that most modern poems are lyric poems. Now, as what was mentioned earlier, a writer or a poet who writes lyric poetry draws inspiration from his or her own personal experiences. This could be fueled by his or her emotions and his or her thoughts and ideas regarding a certain topic or issue. The next form of poetry is descriptive poetry. In descriptive poetry, it is seen as a poem that describes the world that surrounds the speaker. Descriptive poetry also uses elaborate imagery and adjectives. Now, it is worth noting that while emotional, it is more outward focused than lyric poetry, which is more personal and introspective. Now, in comparison with lyric poetry, wherein the writer or the poet would draw inspiration from his or her emotions and personal thoughts and ideas, in descriptive poetry, the poet or the writer would draw inspiration from everything that is happening around him or her. It could be about the environment or nature. It could be about politics. It could be about pollution. Or even it could be about people around him. It could be friends, it could be families, it could be everyone that he has encountered. Again, when describing the differences between lyric poetry and descriptive poetry, in lyric poetry it tends to be more emotional because the writer would rely on his or her own emotions or feelings as well as his or her ideas regarding a certain topic or theme. In other words, these are internal inspiration because everything that the writer writes in his poem would be dependent on what he or she feels at that moment or what he or she thinks at that moment during the time of writing the poem. Whereas in descriptive poetry, the writer would rely on everything that is happening around him, pretty much what is happening in the physical world. In other words, these are external inspirations that the author would use when writing a poem. Some other factors would be the environment, as well as the community where the writer lives in, or pretty much the events that are currently happening. We have to remember that it's called descriptive poetry because the author aims to describe what is happening or what is going on around him or her based on observations. And lastly, we have the narrative poetry. Narrative poetry is a type of poetry that tells a story. Its structure resembles the plotline of a story, such as the introduction of conflict and characters, rising action, climax, and the denouement. From the word itself, a narrative poetry aims to narrate events in a story in a poetic manner. Some examples would be different kinds of epics, such as the Philippines' Life of Lam-ang, as well as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. Now at this point, we shall now be talking about the elements of poetry, starting off with theme. Theme tells what the poem is about. Also, it is the main focus of the poem itself because the theme contains the message, point of view, and idea of the poem. Next, we have tone and mood. Tone and mood are interconnected as both elements refer to emotions or deal with emotions in poetry. However, tone would be talking about the author's emotions which are involved in writing the poem. These emotions can be identified through the words that are used by the author and the manner of writing, whereas mood would refer to the emotions that are felt by the reader from reading the literary piece. Furthermore, it is the result of the reader's interaction with the author's tone. Therefore, whatever tone is included in the poem would affect the mood of the reader. If, for example, the author would have a dark tone in the poem, most likely the mood would also be negative, such as afraid, scared, uneasy, or uncomfortable. The next element is imagery. Imagery refers to the use of figurative words or expressions to help readers create a vivid image of what the writer wants them to see, feel, hear, taste, or smell in his poetry. Next, we have symbolism. Symbolism is the presentation of a tangible object that actually represents an abstract or intangible concept or idea. Also, it can be presented to the readers in the form of a character, an object strategically placed in the narrative, a word or phrase, or even a particular place. Next element would be stanza. Stanza is a fixed number of lines of verse forming a single unit of a poem. Now, usually all stanzas are made up of equal number of lines in a single poem. Based on the number of lines present in a stanza, they are assigned different names. A stanza that has 2 lines would be called a couplet, while a stanza that has 3 lines would be called a tercet. Furthermore, a stanza that would have 4 lines is called a quatrain, and a stanza that has 5 lines would be called a cinquain. In addition, 6 lines would be called a sestet, while a stanza that has 7 lines is called a septet, and a stanza that would have 8 lines is called an octave. At this point, let's look at the following examples. O love, hear me dearly, as I open my heart so purely. My love for you is as wide as the big blue sky, higher than the tallest mountain peak, clearer than what words cannot speak. If we are going to count the number of lines in this particular stanza, we'd be able to identify that this is composed of 5 lines. Therefore, this particular stanza is what we would call a cinquain. Let's have another example. White sands by the bay, covering murky waters. For my mental health. Again, if we are going to count the number of lines, we would be able to know that this is composed of 3 lines. Therefore, this is what we would call a tercet. More specifically, this is an example of a haiku, which is a type of poem composed of 3 lines. One last example. Walking alone in the Garden of Eden, feeling the moist, tender grass on my bare feet, I let out a slight quiver as a cold breeze kisses my cheeks, and a warm sun embracing my soul. Again, from the number of lines, we're able to recognize that this particular stanza has 4 lines. Therefore, this is an example of a quatrain. The next element is rhyme. Rhyme is one convention that makes this form of literature recognizably different from prose and drama, because only poetry would have the element of rhyme. This is generally achieved by using similar sounding words at the end of lines. Now, the pattern reflected by the repetition of similar sounds at the end of each line per stanza is called a rhyming scheme. Now, we have to know that there are different rhyming schemes depending on the repetition of the rhymes in each particular stanza in a particular poem. Let's look at these examples here. We have a cinquain, which is a stanza composed of 5 lines, and a quatrain, which is a stanza composed of 4 lines. We'll now identify the last words per line. We have dearly and purely. We have sky. We have peak and speak. If we're going to recognize, we shall now label the words that have the same sounds. We have dearly and purely, sky and peak and speak. From this particular example, we could recognize that the rhyming scheme for this particular stanza is AABCC. For the second one, let's have mind, confusions, behind, and distortions. Same pattern. We're going to label all the same sounds. We have mind and behind. We have confusions and distortions. Again, from this particular example, we're able to recognize that this particular stanza observes the ABAB rhyming scheme. And lastly, we have rhythm and meter. Rhythm is basically the pattern in which a poet chooses to sequence the stressed and unstressed syllables in every line of a poem for the creation of oral patterns. We have to take note that there are three factors that help determine rhythm. These are the total number of syllables present in each line, the total count of accented or stressed syllables in each line, and the tally of recurring patterns of 2 or 3 syllables, which are stressed and unstressed, which are clubbed in every line. To continue, each recurring pattern is individually called a foot, and a number of feet on identification can tell us the systematic rhythm or the meter that a poem follows. 1 foot is called the manometer, while 2 feet is called the dimeter, and 3 feet would be called a trimeter. 4 feet is called a tetrameter, 5 feet is called a pentameter, and 6 feet is called a hexameter. Now in terms of the types of rhythm patterns, we have the following. First, we have iamb, which is composed of 1 weak syllable followed by 1 accented syllable. A trochee, which is composed of 1 accented syllable followed by 1 weak syllable. An anapest, which is composed of 2 weak syllables followed by 1 accented syllable. A dactyl, which is composed of 1 accented syllable followed by 2 weak syllables. And a spondee, which is composed of 2 consecutive accented syllables. This can usually be found at the end of a line. Let's have this example here. We have an excerpt from Shakespeare's Sonnet 116. Let's read it first. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. If we are going to analyze, we have the pattern of 1 weak syllable followed by another accented syllable, which is repeated all throughout each line. We have to take note that since this is the repetition, we can consider that this is considered as 1 foot. If we're going to count the number of clusters, we're able to count that this would have 5 feet, therefore it's called a pentameter. If we will analyze if the pattern is continuous, then this is an example of an iambic pentameter. Now take note that most poems would have multiple rhythm and meter patterns. Let's have this example here. We have an excerpt from To the Waterfowl by William Cullen Bryant. Let's read it first. Wither mist falling dew, while glow the heavens with the last steps of day. Far through the rosy depths dost thou pursue thy solitary way. If we are going to analyze, the pattern would be 1 weak syllable followed by 1 accented syllable all throughout the lines. And if we're going to count the number of feet per line, the first one would have 3 feet, therefore it's a tetrameter, while the second line would have 5 feet, hence it's called a pentameter. With the pattern that we have, we could say that the first line is an iambic tetrameter, while the second one is an iambic pentameter. In conclusion, poetry is probably one of the most common means of expressing oneself, his emotions, insights, ideas, opinions, and experiences. Knowing more about poetry in terms of its characteristics, elements, and types allows us to appreciate it as a form of literature. This helps creative writers be able to come up with meaningful poetry through effective application of learned concepts about poetry.